Welcome, fellow stargazers. Congratulations, you've taken another step towards the realization. This video has been long overdue, so it's about time we talk about it. You, at some point in time, must have heard these three terms thrown around in various media. Dharma, or Dharma if you want to be pretentious, religion, and cult. And while there is a clear difference between the three, they are often interchangeably used, particularly the first two. So let's talk about what exactly these terms mean, what their differences are, and how one of them eventually leads to another. Let's start with Dharma, the most simple of the three, and yet, ironically, the most difficult to understand. This is also the oldest term of the three, dating to be as old as the Rig Veda, one of the most prominent texts of Hinduism. The Vedic definition of Dharma calls it a universal or cosmic law that governs the way the world functions. It is difficult to directly translate the meaning of Dharma. Duty is the closest it can get to an accurate translation. Dharma is often associated with Hinduism, and yes, while the concept did originate from Hinduism, the scope of Dharma is beyond any religion. A very simple proof of the same is the fact that the concept of Dharma is older than any religion that has ever existed. You don't need to be a Hindu to follow Dharma. In fact, you don't even need to be a human. Animals, plants, and even non-living objects for that matter have a dharma, a cosmic duty that they follow. The sun has a dharma of emitting light deep into the darkness of the cosmos. The screen you're watching this on has a dharma of displaying every pixel properly, and thus every image, beautiful or ugly. However, when it gets to humans, dharma gets a little complicated. Since humans are social creatures with different roles in different parts of society, our dharma is also different based on our various social roles. Take a little boy for example. When he is a school-going child, his dharma is to respect and obey his teachers and parents. In this same situation, the dharma of the teachers and parents is to teach ethical values and morals to the boy. When this boy grows up, he gets a job, gets married, and has children. This further expands the scope of his dharma. He now has a duty to be truthful towards his job, his wife, his children, and his parents who are growing old. Dharma thus teaches us how to be truthful in every aspect of life. Such an idealistic concept, right? Unfortunately, humans aren't as equally idealistic. They won't follow rules just because they should. That's why we need reinforcement. Tell me one thing, which of these two commands are you most likely to follow? Be truthful and humble because you should, or be truthful and humble because God said so, and if you don't follow Him, God will be angry? Very clearly the latter. And that's exactly the essence of religion. If you notice, the core principles and values that any religion teaches are the same as that of Dharma. What's different about religion is the involvement of some kind of higher power, a supreme being who watches over us. Humans aren't usually smart enough to understand concepts, even if these concepts are relatively simple. A simple proof of that is a 5-minute conversation with an average person. On top of that, keeping an entire group of people in discipline is much more difficult than doing the same with just one person. Children in a classroom won't behave just because they should. You need a teacher in place to ensure they do. Thinking of the same on a larger scale, and it becomes clear that you need gods to ensure that the society follows Dharma. Consequently, Dharma becomes religion. This is particularly evident in Hinduism, where you see gods taking various incarnations or avatars on earth. These incarnations then go on to live a human life full of ideals, morals, and if needed, prudence and politics. And guess what the ancient texts say about the function of these incarnations? Re-establishment of Dharma. Exactly what we said a few moments ago, further confirming the idea of gods being necessary for a society to follow Dharma. This idea, however, is most prominent in ancient religions. The modern Abrahamic religions deviate from the concept of Dharma as such and become more about reinforcing opinions, albeit mostly good, but opinions nonetheless. The difference between a Dharma-based religion and an opinion-based religion is the fact that while both of them ask a person to be righteous, a Dharma-based religion would leave it at that and allow the individual to figure out the specifics of his righteousness using his cognition. This use of cognition, however, is notoriously not promoted in opinion-based religions, which have very rigid and inflexible rules, and anyone trying to challenge these rules is looked down upon. Another difference between Dharma and religion is the fact that Dharma is essentially an unwritten rule, while religion is written in certain books, which contain the rules to be followed by an individual. And honestly, our society would have been perfectly fine had we stopped at this stage. But alas, there is yet another and a much scarier stage that is born out of religion. Welcome to human insanity. This is the final stage that marks the end of our progression starting from Dharma. We saw how Dharma evolved into religion, and this religion then evolves, or devolves depending how you look at it, into a cult. The Webster's Dictionary defines cult as a religion regarded as unorthodox or spurious. Cult behavior is defined as great devotion to a person, idea, object, movement, or work, criticizing how the media or anyone else think of such a cult. The beliefs of a cult can appear to be strange and radical to the normal masses, but to the cult members, those beliefs are the only truth they know of. Both religion and cult have some similarities, in the sense they believe in a higher entity and follow certain rules that they believe would please their higher entity. But religion is still somewhat sane, unlike cult, which is insanity at best. To understand how religion leads to the formation of a cult, consider this. Religion has certain books, which are taught by various individuals like priests or gurus. Consequently, these people are also highly respected by the society, and people tend to follow their orders. However, this system would only work as long as the priests themselves abide to the righteous values of the book. When the person preaching the book becomes more powerful than the book itself, that's when a cult is born. The result of this? Certain people bending the teachings of religion to meet their own interests. Origin of caste system in Hinduism, monopoly of church, and practices like witch hunting in Christianity, and terrorism and forced conversions in Islam. These are all examples of religion slowly taking the form of a cult. This cult behavior can go beyond just religion. In fact, a deeper inspection reveals that it's less of a religious behavior and more of a social one. People tend to form small groups where all members have a shared fascination towards one person. This is why celebrities, franchises, and shows have a cult following. This behavior originates all the way back in the times when humans used to live in caves, where being part of the group meant a better social life and access to resources, and being excluded from the group meant certain death. So this cult behavior can be observed in really any celebrity. Gods just happen to be the earliest of them. These are, however, very broad examples. More often than not, what we typically imagine when we hear the word cult are small groups of people who all follow some bizarre, outlandish beliefs and are led by an equally insane leader. One common factor in the leaders of all such cults is that they don't believe in some god. Rather, they think they are the god, and it's their responsibility to alleviate anyone who chooses to follow them. This is a twisted extrapolation of the beliefs of religion. Many cult leaders believe they've been appointed by Christ to deliver justice, while many believe they are Antichrist. So, what do we do to deal with this problem? Do we ban religion? Banning religion seems like an attractive option at first. After all, won't that solve all religion-based conflicts and terrorism? While that may be true, we also need to consider another aspect of religion: hope. Sure, cults have originated because of the extreme beliefs in God. But we also need to understand what this same God means to the normal people. Life is not easy for any of us. All of us have our battles and struggles, some more than others. Many nations have a large number of people living under the poverty line. For all these people, their belief in God is the only thing that gives them at least some sense of hope. There are so many people who go through fatal accidents, people losing their jobs, people losing their family, people affected by terrorism, women affected by abuse, molestation, assault, rape, people dying in wars, people forced to become slaves, people living under a dictator. The list can go on endlessly. Given the overwhelmingly negative things going on in the world, there's really more reasons to not believe in God. And yet, the belief in God still persists. Tells you something about human behavior. The hope and courage that the belief in God gives is tremendous. Even if God doesn't exist, which is debatable, the possibility of existence significantly outweighs the cold reality of a purposeless existence. That is not to say atheists don't do well in life, because regardless of their religious stance, both atheists and religious folks can do well in life, as long as they follow their duty. After all, the cosmic duty is above earthly conflicts. Life is uncertain, a dark and chilling path through which you need to pave your way and navigate to a sustainable existence. Religion can be thought of as a tiny sparkle of fire that helps the individual in finding some clarity in vision on his path. But is his vision the truth or a comforting lie he made in his head? Only God knows. Regardless of the practicality of the fire, its warmth is undeniable. Maybe even the only remaining semblance of it for many who found themselves stuck and scarred by frostbites in the raging and relentless snowstorm that is life. So maybe it isn't a bad idea to sit alongside such people, blanketed by the warmth of this fire. But be careful, for the light that burns twice as bright burns half as long. And warmth isn't the only side to fire. And until next time, chase brilliance.